It all comes down to this. A final deciding match between the employee-run and hosted in-house tournament finals at Amazon.com with Longhammer, the Zerg player hailing from the top right corner of the map versus in the bottom left JNB, the purple Protoss pieces. One thing to note, this Zerg buddy Longhammer did win Game 1 of this best of 5. There was a point in major competitive tournament play, the player to win the first match of a best of 5 won the entire series close to 90% of the time. Winning that first match is such a huge momentum swing, and I'm sure that many of you who are not familiar with the IC Cup map pool have absolutely no idea what map you're looking at. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Match Point. Let's take a little bit of a tour as our players begin getting their builds ready. We do see the pylon here next to a relatively small entrance at the front of your base with a base directly outside the front. And there's this kind of funky formation here where we have these two almost empty mineral patches. This allows us to wall ourselves in and then mine these minerals out for an entrance out like this later. And if we look over here at this ramp, we can follow it through the center of the map past that scouting drone over to our opponent's thin ramp, and of course up into his main. Note that this ramp is very easy to manage, very easy to control. You can throw down force fields, you can easily throw down a number of cannons or defensive structures, defensive units, and lock this down. If we let's actually move back over here to JNB, who appears to be double gassing to make sure he doesn't get any sort of steal going on. If you just keep heading north, you find another expansion, your mineral-only natural expansion. If you keep heading farther north, you find yet another base. Notice that as we move up north, there's this large high ground area with ramps heading out in either direction. In particular, this big ramp allows big armies to move through the center of the map next to our opponent's high ground pod, which of course dumps down to his base. So in other words, see these scouting units? They move very easily in small armies. Small armies have short distances to each other's bases. Big armies have long distances. Match Point has short rush distances, and long push distances. Here's JNB planting a pylon down at his front, already beginning to try to close off this entrance to defend as much as possible. 2 gas geysers down for JNB. Has he even built a cybernetics core yet? Wow, no, opting for a forge early on. This is some very funky play by the Protoss player JNB. Meanwhile, we see Longhammer opting for a very fast expansion. We see his spawning pool is actually only just now finishing. We even see that he's getting an extractor pretty fast, so he can invest in some fast Zergling speed. There's 1 queen going down, 2 queens going down. Huge macro play coming up for the Zerg player. Protoss doesn't seem to have that same macro play intent. Getting that fast double gas generally means that there's some sort of mass upgrade early push, such as a +1 attack upgrade plus blink, or it could mean a sentry heavy play. We see that there is a cybernetics core popping down right now. If we did end up seeing a cannon go down, that would be a little bit unusual, but looks like JNB is going to be doing some kind of very early self-wall-off up here, which he will cancel in favor of a very early another self-wall-off when we see a photon cannon going down. The Zealot blocking in between, but again, notice how high that gas count is. Normally when your cybernetics core finishes, you have 100 gas, and he has 500 gas. That is a lot of gas. In the meantime, Longhammer just doing the larva adding. We see him, instead of getting any sort of super fast creep tumor, getting double larva at both of his hatches, and then will likely be adding on creep tumors. We already see 1 queen in position here. There's also the expansion going down for JNB. We don't see any warp gate getting started yet. There it does go down. Here's a sentry incoming. With this forge down, I would very much so anticipate a relatively early upgrade, but man, Zerg is just sprinting. Oh yeah, by the way, there's the very early upgrade going down at the forge. How's the energy on the Nexus? Look at that. Has 100 energy left, so that way he can chrono boost that +1 and that warp gate as fast as he pleases, even planting another pylon for vision. But Zerg, look how quickly Zerg is sprinting up the tech tree, already planting lots of drones, getting his second gas and his lair very quickly, already having 2 queens and some Zerglings out to scout. But these distances on this map are quite long in general, even though that rush distance is relatively short from base to base. Match Point, the map that we are playing on, is still fairly big. The only thing we haven't talked about is these north and south expansions that have a very small entrance, very easy to defend, and apparently that say Operations, a very fun game to play with friends. There we do see the Zerglings trying to poke in. They spot the Expo. A lot of sentries going down. But look at this. A very fast Stargate. We're starting to see that gas count drop rapidly for JNB. And also a Robo going down as well. JNB doing a massive tech-focused play. Zerg responding by taking a third base of his own. A very fun technique that you can incorporate on these very large maps is that you are almost always safe from attack. If you see your opponent doing some sort of expand and tech play, you have plenty of time to react, plenty of time to respond. There's Zerg looking along the small army rush distance, but having the rest of his units planted to defend against some sort of huge push that would hook around the north side. There's that +1 attack upgrade almost finished. Void Rays popping out right now, able to do a little bit of harassment. The lair is done. There's the Roach Warren going down, allowing him to begin producing that very big Roach army, getting the Roach speed up, the Glial Reconstitution. Big macro game that we have coming up ahead of us. We also see that there is that hallucination upgrade coming up for the Protoss. This is an upgrade that we do not see as much as I would like, but is becoming increasingly popular as we've seen that build speed dropped to 80 seconds long. So that does mean that these sentries will be able to churn out some Phoenixes for scouting. And there is already one Void Ray out. A lot of people would say, why not just scout with the Void Ray? Well, it's so slow. If you end up moving over creep, and there are Hydralisks or even just plain old regular Queens, you will lose your Void Ray. Such an expensive unit, and such a cool looking unit. Yeah. There we see Longhammer's Overlord in the bottom right position, just kind of hanging out. Longhammer's Natural Expansion, getting a little bit of creep added on there. Very cool. There is the Void Ray beginning to do a little bit of damage, but it will end up pulling back as it sees one Queen, and again, a lot of creep. Longhammer's Queen can easily come there to reinforce, and there we see it arrives, and he will end up pulling it away, but he's going to the right side. No, he can easily get picked off on that side. JNB, not having as much experience on this map, loses a Void Ray for free, but that's okay because he has a second one. If at first you don't succeed, try again. But unfortunately, it's very expensive to try again in StarCraft 2. Looks like one geyser does not even have any guys mining edit. JNB's discomfort is a little bit too apparent at this point. Hydralisk Den going down for Longhammer, and look at that nice creep connection chain that he has between all of his bases. This is going to allow him to defend very easily. In the unit counting station, we see 4 queens out. Generally good to have one more queen. Then you have hatcheries, so you can continue to spread the creep oh so quickly. JNB making sure he doesn't get supply block later. He sees supply block right now. There's the Robo facility coming out right now in the resource station. We see that 75 food to 60 food, and Zerg has an extra expansion. This can potentially bode not so well for our Protoss hero JNB, but keep in mind that Colossus Void Ray mix is so powerful that it's going to be very hard for Zerg to deal with if Protoss' army can get large enough. So JNB going to continue to poke around to this backside yet again. There are 2 queens there. Do they see that Void Ray? Yes, they do end up seeing it. They're moving in, target firing one of the queens. Is there another queen nearby in time? We don't even see any Hydralisks out, but there's a very nicely timed transfuse. One Zealot even working its way in. This could be a very cool little mix in there. And another transfuse ends up saving the day. Will he lose yet another Void Ray? He needs to be careful not to. That one Zealot still trying to finish off the queen. And another transfuse. Longhammer feeling very confident with his queen play. And it looks like, uh-oh, fully charged Void Ray. Will he end up doing the transfuse? And he misses the transfuse on that back queen. But 1 queen for 1 Void Ray, that's a very, very good exchange for the Zerg player, who again, now has a lot of queens, still 4 out, despite losing that one. Nexus going down for JNB. This is a panic move by JNB. He's feeling very much so behind. As we can see, he's right. We see that he's about 30 food behind his opponent, and that will continue to extend. We see that not getting any upgrades at that forge, making a Phoenix now for a little bit of scouting. Another Robobay going down right now. JNB just going to rely on the heavy-duty units, the Void Rays and the Colossus, but Zerg is starting to spread that creep through the middle of the map. Longhammer doing a great job extending in that direction. Phoenix out to scout, wants to get a good sense of what's going on. Anything out of the ordinary here, but he needs to be careful because there's a fungal growth that could go down, and he whiffs! Total whiff on the fungal growth. No fungal growth. Phoenix going to get to spot everything. No problemo. Totally fine. Totally. We do see Longhammer hanging out at expansion number 4. No, that's just a radioactive warning symbol. But you know what? This is going to be very, very nice for Zerg if probes do get transferred anytime soon. And there's the probes moving down. Will Zerg end up seeing it? Oh no, that could be devastating to just have all of those probes spotted. And does he see it? Uh-oh, he does, but you know what? There's this Phoenix doing a little bit of distracting action. It looks like Zerg was so focused on that, I don't know if he saw all the units ended up picking off the Zergling. Protoss might be able to have gotten away with this sneaky expansion. We see another gateway going down, but keep in mind, it is 1-2 gateways on the field right now. Mass Colossus going down, but that gas count is very, very high for Protoss. Zerg moving out with an extremely nice mix. Roaches, Hydras, Zerglings, but the Infestors are the ones that I really like in that composition. Those fungal growths can easily lock down this tightly packed army. The one issue that the Void Ray Colossus Gateway unit mix has is that the Gateway units can sit under the Colossus, and the Void Ray units can sit on top of the Colossus. So literally everything is packed so tightly that just 3 fungal growths is almost guaranteed to cover the entire army. And here's Zerg moving along to the high ground pod. Again, big wide entrance will allow all those Zerg units to swing in. And oh no, he's just going to check upon that expansion. He sees it, but he's trying to pull back to make sure he can get into a good enough position. There's a probe moving out, and it looks like, whoa, Zerg's feeling very, very iffy about this. He sees that there's a big force moving out. Protoss needs to be careful. He split his army up on accident with a misclick, and this is why Zerg's controlling the high ground pod, is in an absolutely amazing position. There's some force fields going down. Fungal growth on the Colossus doesn't even matter. Look at the unit count of Zerg. Absolute total domination by the Zerg player. Look at the Zerglings now swinging in. Some Void Rays there just get annihilated. Not even close. Zerg, when given the opportunity to go into macro mode, is looking strong. Longhammer feeling pleased. JNB looking not so pleased. How is JNB going to respond? It looks like he is going to do what we call an emergency attack. He's going to just box everything he has. He's going to think about sending it right. It would be wiser to sit at home and just build up. We see gateways not even yet morphed into warp gates because he is just under such immense pressure, but Zerg has managed to pick off this top left expansion, but doesn't have anything left back in his home. This might mean he loses 1 hatch, but the instant this army returns back home, he will clean up. But notice, no creep spread. Big danger on a huge map. Not having good enough creep spread. You cannot defend in these sorts of situations. Queen gets picked off with ease. There goes the expansion hatch under a lot of pressure, but there's a ton of roaches coming out right now. The Queens are coming into the fray. They have a lot of energy, a lot of transfuses possible at this point in time, and we see the Zerglings now swinging back in. Those Colossi are totally vulnerable. The Queens also do their air damage to the Colossus, and total cleanup. Look at this resource advantage. 136 to 80. Zerg players around the world rejoice, except for friends of JNB who play Zerg. They are crying little tears made out of pylons right now. There's the warp gate. The Nexus going down from JNB. He's trying to get some sort of foothold on there, but you know what? Zerg player is just keeping too much pressure. Cancel JNB. Escape, escape, escape. Cancel construction, and he does so. It looks like Protoss is going to have to pull back, but look at that Colossus count getting very, very high, as a matter of fact. This could, again, be a big danger for Zerg if it gets a little too high. This is a mid-game army. Roach Hydra with a couple of Zerglings, the late-game units, the Queens, the Ultralists, the Broodlords, nowhere to be found. Zerg just expanding, 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 and this is fine as long as Zerg is doing Nidus Warming, dropping, putting pressure on the opponent, trying to keep Protoss under 150 food, because the instant the Protoss gets to maybe 160, 170, 180, it hardly matters how much of a lead Zerg had, because the Protoss late game mix is so powerful. That is not saying that Protoss is somehow a better race. That is just saying that Zerg needs to just keep battering the opponent and using all these excess resources to keep the battery non-stop. There's JNB's Observer getting a good little spotteroo down, and ooh, it looks like Protoss moving out a little too early again. Pull back, JNB. There's a big army of Hydralists there, and we do see it looks like some hallucinated Phoenixes popping down, but they're not going to be of much use there. Some force fields going down. He needs to pull back right away. The fungal growths do not work on those massive units. All the other people just saying, I'm not going to watch this sort of massacre, and are just leaving the game one at a time. JNB continuing to try to produce as much as he can, but notice how much the food counts got evened up. Zerg was about 80 food ahead, now Zerg is 30 food ahead. Colossus Void Ray, very, very strong composition, but JNB needs to have a little bit more patience. He's trying to do too much too early. Nothing wrong with just hanging out, chilling, getting a very big force, and moving out for a kill. We do see the Hive finished right now for Longhammer. There's the +2 attack upgrade. Is he getting any adrenal? Not quite yet, but the instant he begins getting that Hive tech, begins getting some sort of Broodlord or Ultralisk or Queen mix, that's going to be very, very, very scary for his opponent. There's the armor upgrade going down right now. More Colossi being produced. Protoss trying to take anything he can. And moving down here with a very small force of Zealots could potentially be pretty good as there's no creep link to that base. And looks like Zerg was moving in for the kill, but this is going to be a pretty critical expansion that will get taken down. And it looks like the Zealots are just pulling back, trying to do as much damage as possible. They spot the Spire. Very nice play, but in the meantime, Zerg just moved up and picked off the whole force of Protoss. Zerg knows what battle he wants to win. It is not this one. It is the one for this expansion, and it looks like Protoss has so few units here to defend. Zerg knows that this expansion up in the north one has a better creep link. It's going to be easier to hold. This expansion is everything for Protoss. He's trying to Chrono Boost. It's a lot of Hydralisk. Those Colossi could be very, very strong, but it looks like the Nexus falls. Did he get the cancel off in time? I don't know. It does look like, yes, Protoss did manage to pick off that bottom right Expo. In the production mix, is there any Hive tech yet? No, the Hive is done, but there's no Ultralisk Cavern. There's no use being made of it. Zerg is still stuck in mid-game mode. Can JNB just have the patience to wait for a bigger army? He keeps moving out with such small forces, and look at all these roaches. They are getting caught off guard. He will be able to pick off 1-2 units of Zerg, but there's a nice fungal growth that's going to delay that push by a lot. And here comes in all the roaches. He's on the creep. All of the Colossi get surrounded and taken down. Zerg is massacring Protoss and playing it out so well. JNB with the millionth expansion attempt this game. Gonna get shut down. The cancel, the kill. Zerg doesn't even care about this bottom right corner. He has the north expansion. We even see that Spire is rapidly finishing up, and with the money that Zerg has in the bank, it's going to be so hard for Protoss. More Zealots for JNB getting warped in on the side. Going to try to do a sneak around attack. Would have probably preferred to plant a pylon there in the early stages of the game. But right now, JNB is running low on money at the Expo, is almost out of money in his main, is making only Colossi, because that is the one hope that he has to get a critical number of units. Here comes some Zealots swinging in to do any damage that they can, but every Zerg unit on creep is just a little too fast. A lot of Hydrals moving out for Longhammer. Ordinarily, I'd be so scared of a Hydra-heavy composition, but he has battered his Protoss opponent down. And with this resource composition, 200 to 100, having this many Hydras is going to help rather than hurt. Queen's continuing to spread the creep around. One drone making its way to the bottom right because, hey, why not get 5 bases, even though you don't even really need that much money. Stalker's now spawning, going to be able to pick off that Overlord. Colossus count starting to get high again. A Warp Prism out as well. That could be the hope that he needs to take that bottom right expansion. Yep, he's loading up some probes, but man, is that a big army for Zerg. Queen even at the front lines, planning a creep tumor infester there to fungal growth anything that it can to deny and delay any early push. Looks like the Warp Prism's being very, very cautious. This is an extremely easy expansion location to defend because of that narrow choke. And plus, if you can end up getting a lot of cannons there, it can be almost indestructible, so we love that. But man, Zerg has so many units everywhere. There are tons of Hydras, 2-0 Hydras. Is he even getting a Greater Spire? No use has been made of this Hive Tech yet. That means that Zerg really cannot do the finishing blow on Protoss, but still, Zerg is feeling very comfortable and very confident. Longhammer moving through here. Does he have any idea of what is there? Well, he has this Overlord planet, so we will get a sense that there's something trying to mine later on. Depleted. And it looks like mineral fields have been depleted. Zerg is almost out of stuff in his main, has a geyser that's done, has another geyser that's almost done. Protoss moving out again. Some hallucinations try to pop up, but they're not going to be too effective. Here comes all the Zerg units completely unsupported. Oh no, where are the force fields? One force field gets thrown down, but the Colossi trying to do as much damage as they can. Do not do enough. They get taken down. JNB is down at 78 food, trying to make some Colossi again, but he is out of money, and the good game. Congrats to Longhammer, the champion of the employee-run Amazon.com tournament. Again, not an official tournament of Amazon.com, but, you know, people all around the world just can't resist that pull of awesome competition. So huge thanks to Amazon.com employees for giving me the opportunity to cast those replays. And now you know that Longhammer is king. Take care, guys, and peace out.